Hey songwriters, so for this video, what I wanted to do is really explore a topic that I think is very important to a lot of songwriters and probably all of us songwriters is how do we write a song that is truly developed, and how do you use tools to write and develop a song the best it can be? So all of us want to write songs that no one else could write. We want to avoid cliches. We want to write a song that someone just wants to record or wants to listen to. I think the goal overall is to write a song that no one else could write, that only you could write as a songwriter. So one of the things that we'll try to do in this video is to teach you some tools how to dig a little bit deeper when you have a nugget of an idea, and how to sort of see if that idea is worth developing into a full song, and how will that song develop. So really think about avoiding cliches as adding more imagery to your songs. The more imagery that you have, the more original the song will sound, and the less cliche your song will be. So how do you do this? Well, first you need to think differently. So you need to think deeper than your first idea. You need to think deeper than what everyone else is thinking. You need to give someone a nugget of aha. Like, how do you create, excuse me, that aha moment within your song? So you need to practice different approaches to really make this happen, to see what sort of fits with you. But you also need to attack writing with a mind of a student. So I know you all know how to write songs right now, but everybody has a chance to improve. And I think instead of looking at your writing as, oh, I want to write the best song possible, start thinking of what is the process and how do I write the best song possible? So what we're going to explore are some efficient ways of developing songs and writing songs. Sometimes when you don't even have an idea, but other times you might have something. You might write a chorus, you might write a verse, you might just have a title. We're not going to be able to explore all of those in depth, but let's pick a few and let's see how it goes. So today, songwriters, I don't really know what I'm going to write about. So what I want to explore now is what's one way that we can develop a song when we sit down and we're like, you know what, I've got some time, I want to write a song, but what the heck do I write about? So how do you pull that out? So let's take a look at one way that I'm going to do this. So here we are. We want to write a song, but we don't have a topic. We don't know what we're going to write about. We're starting completely from scratch. So what I want to do is show you an approach to how one of the ways that I do it, and I think it's a way that you might be able to use it as well. So I'm going to share my screen and give you a chance to see what this process looks like in real time. So I'm going to go to the web and type in random word generator. And a random word generator is just a simple website that's going to give us some random words that we really hadn't thought about. So let's go to, I like word counter because it has a good setup. So you can choose how many words, you can choose verbs, nouns, adjectives. Let's do nouns for now, and we'll do 5 random words and we'll just click it. So there's 5 words here: needle, pleasure, comfort, ants, and system. So let's use the word ants. So now that I have that word, ants is the word that I'm using, I'm going to go here now and really show you what the process would be using ants. So we're going to go to our whiteboard here and pull this up. So here's how I start with this. So I write ants. That's our word. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do some object writing that really focuses on our senses. So we're focusing on sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, and movement. So what I'm going to do is take 3 or 4 minutes. We'll do 3 minutes. And I'm going to set my alarm on my phone for 3 minutes. And I'm just going to free write about ants. And I'm going to focus on each one of those senses. So when I think of the sight, like when ants, like when I'm thinking about it, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I touch? What do I smell? Like what's going on movement-wise as well. So we're going to start the clock now, 3 minutes, and I'm going to free write. So time is up for this writing anyway. So here's what I wrote. I wrote, mound of sand and tiny workers scurry around and around, gathering food. The sun is high in the sky and making the mound look like a sundial. The sound around is distant traffic, birds, kids playing in the distance. The air tastes like summer watermelon and that taste you smell after mowing the grass. I watch the ants carry pieces of old food 10 times bigger than they are. They push and pull and take the prize back to their dens. Today feels perfect, not too hot, not too cold. You can feel the dance of the light breeze across your short-sleeved arm. It smells like the earth and the summer and plants and nature. There is so much activity in this brightly lit scene. Sometimes I feel like I'm an ant, just doing my thing day to day with my colony. So step one really is finding that random word to write something like that. So now, what do you do with that? So what do you do with what we just wrote? Well, one of the most efficient ways to write a song is really from a title. So what we're doing with this is giving ourselves some material, something to sort of click on and maybe feel as we're writing. So next step is to look at what you wrote and find possible titles. So there's two types of titles. So there's DNA titles, which are concrete and they create an image or they're a physical thing. It's usually a person, place, or thing. And then there's parasitic titles where it doesn't really give you a lot of information. It doesn't give you an image. It doesn't really show you what it's about. It has to ride on the back of the rest of the song. So you have to establish the meaning a little bit more. Is one better than the other? It depends. So it depends on how you develop it. So what I'm looking for in this is, are there titles that really stand out to me that are really concrete DNA titles that really give us some kind of image? Because remember, the more imagery that you have, the less cliche your song is going to be. So I want you to remember that from this is the more imagery that you have, the less cliche your song is going to be. So I'm going to read through what I wrote and I'm going to see what stands out to me as, titles. So I think first off, Mound of Sand could be a title. Also, I like the sound of sundial. Summer watermelon. Take the prize. I also like those are the ones that stand out to me. I don't see a whole lot of other ones that are sort of like really being something for me. So now that I have this writing, my song is probably not going to be about ants, but ants is really what got my mind thinking about like, okay, let's find a title. So what I'm going to do is pick Sundial. Sundial is the one that stands out to me the most right now for this title. So I'm going to clear my screen and I'm just going to write Sundial up at the top. So the next step is to start thinking about, you know, now that we have this title, what could this song be about? So Sundial, what does it do? It tells time. The sun moves across the sky, and the shadow it casts can be used to tell us what time it is. So as my mind is thinking, I'm thinking like, how do I write something that's sort of commercial? What's a commercial sort of pop country? Like, what would a sundial be? So I start thinking about how would I develop this title? So the next step is to really write a paragraph of what comes to mind on developing the title. So thinking of sundial, like I think of a relationship. So we need to have a way to see where we are in a relationship. And sometimes is it new? Is it old? Is it like a troubled relationship? So I don't know about you, but sometimes when friends or even myself have been like dating or in different dating situations, we put importance on, you know, certain events or activities as a sign of where we are in a relationship. Could we consider those things a sundial? Can we tell the time of our relationship based on those events? So now my head is thinking, okay, there's something here. Like that feels like there could be a song in there, right? Like a lot of you probably have that compass where you're like, that sounds like a song or something like that. So what I want to do is talk to you about developing your ideas. So one of the things that, or one of the concepts that we have as writers is we want our songs to grow emotionally as our song goes on. So what does that mean? So what that means is as we're writing, we want to have each section or each verse set up the chorus in a little bit different way so it advances the concept of the song without saying the same thing over and over again. So this is something that's very hard to do. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it makes complete sense, but a lot of times it's hard. So what I want you to do is start thinking about boxes. So box one is really the verse one, as you might say. Box two could be verse two, and then box three could be either verse three or it could be a bridge, just depending on the structure of your song. So one of the things you should do is take your boxes and write, if I can move this, oops. Well, I guess we lost that. So let's do a text box right here. And we're going to write sundial because that's our title. And then I'm going to do another one here. So how do we then start thinking about how we develop this story? So my thought hit me in this idea where we said we need to have ways where we to see where we are in relationship. Is it a new relationship? Is it an old relationship? So where my head is going for my boxes is new relationship in box 1. Box 2, then what I would like to see is maybe so the relationship gets new, and then maybe there's some trouble. And then to really close out the song, I feel like it's an old relationship, more developed. And in my head, I'm determining a little bit of like, do these two boxes need to flip? I'm not sure which one feels like, I feel like the resolve would be in the old one, but the trouble you could set up in the second verse. So this is where we have now is new relationship. This is our sundial. Trouble in the relationship. This is the sundial. Old relationship. This is our sundial. So my mind is starting to think of how do I then develop these boxes? So that's our next step, is to develop the boxes. So now that we have our boxes developed, we have sundial as our main title. Box 1, we said, is going to be new relationship. So what does it mean to be new relationship and a sundial? Again, we said sundial is a way to tell time. So it's a way to take a measurement of this relationship, is how I'm looking at it. Box 2 would be what happens not when it's new, but when there's a little bit of rough water, there's a troubled relationship. Box 3 is when the relationship has mended itself and it's old and developed and, better. So as I'm talking, I just had an idea in my head where it's like when things get troubled, sometimes things get cloudy, right? So maybe it's not as easy to see our sundial. So now my mind is thinking like, okay, box 2, like trouble, clouds, like thinking like that. So I'm going to share my screen again. And what I'm going to do is start developing our boxes. So box 1, new relationship. So my thought is this has to do with dating, courting, trying to see what someone is thinking and setting up sort of milestones to see how this is going. This is our sundial. So I'm still, the idea still hasn't like cooked itself 100% in my mind yet. I still don't know exactly how I'm going to pull sundial in, but I think that's the right way to think. Box 2, troubled relationship. I'm going to write down clouds, hard to see the sundial. How do we get it back? Do we find our way? What happens next? How did we get here? So as you're writing, I think one of the more powerful tools that we have at our disposal are the 5 W's, who, when, where, why, and then, what happens next. Or you could say it's how, and how did we get here. So those are lenses that you can use to constantly be putting your song through to see how that works itself out. Um, so box 3, this is a more developed relationship. The skies have cleared, and maybe my partner is my sundial, the person that guides me and tells me if I am on time, /track, dependable. So now, as you can see, this idea is developing into something where I'm seeing if this has any legs to actually become a good song, or a song worth sort of like taking all the way through the end. I actually think there is. I like the idea of sundial. I think it creates images. I think having each box be about a different part of the relationship is, you know, good. And then in the last box, flipping it to say the person is a sundial could be that little payoff that becomes that sort of aha moment. So now that I have the boxes set up, I want to start thinking about how do I write these verses, and how do we start actually putting this into a song. So object writing and just free writing is your best friend when it comes to these things. So next I'm going to free write about a new relationship. So I'm going to set my clock for another 3 minutes, and I'm going to write. So 3 minutes is up for the new relationship writing. So here's what I wrote. We've been going on dates. We have had some great times together. We even kissed. And I think if he texts me back, we may be on to something. Why hasn't he texted me back? He feels like sunshine to me. We went to the movies. We walked along the river. That ice cream at Izzy's tastes so good. We shared a waffle cone, and there were stars dancing above us and street performers busking in the moonlight. I feel like I'm lost right now. I can't even tell what they're thinking. I know it was nighttime, but I wish I had a sundial. I want to tell them where we are in all of this. Am I wasting my time? Night out at the theater, text, FaceTime, emails, Facebook, Instagram, liking photos. Do we get a second date? So now I've got some more meat, something to really start putting together my verse. So what I want to do is I want to create a couple of boxes. So lines usually have two, or lines could be two types. External, which is what's happening around and to your character that you can experience through your senses. Or internal, which is more emotional, something that's happening inside the character, or what is more of a feeling or an emotion that you can't actually see or touch. So what I want to do is go through what I just wrote and start putting together external and internal lines. So going on dates, that's a line. We even kissed. Went to the movies. And again, I'm skipping some things because they're not external. So we walked along the river. Ice cream at Izzy's tasted so good. Shared a waffle cone. Stars dancing above us. Street performers busking in the moonlight. night out at the theater. Text, FaceTime, emails, Facebook, Instagram, liking photos. So now we have our external list here. So these are all things that sort of create images for us. So the sort of the next step is then to do the internal, or what are some of the emotional lines here? So what I would say is, if he texts me back, we may be on to something. Texting back is a little bit external, but this is more internal. So why hasn't he texted me back? Feels like sunshine to me. We went to the movies. Feel like I am lost right now. Can't tell what they are thinking. Wish I had a sundial. I want to tell where we are in all of this. Am I wasting my time? And then, do we go on a second date? So now you have external and internal lines. So a good balance in a song is really about having the right mix of internal and external language. Because if you have all internal language, you are telling people what's going on. You're not really showing them what's going on. So the listener doesn't get pulled into the song the same way that external detail does. So in your internal, like if we looked at this as a song, like if he texts me back, we may be onto something. Why isn't he texting me back? It feels like sunshine to me. It feels like I'm lost right now. I can't tell what they're thinking. I wish I had a sundial. I want to tell where we are in all of this. Am I wasting my time? Do we go on a second date? If you said that to your friends, they would be like, wait. What have you done so far? Like, tell me about this. Well, we've been going on dates. We even kissed. We went to the movies. We walked along the river. We went and had ice cream. It tasted really good. We shared a waffle cone. Stars were out. There were people singing on the street. It was nighttime. We went to the theater. Before this, we were texting. We were, using FaceTime. We were doing emails, Facebook, Instagram. We were liking all this stuff. There's your balance of what you want to give your listeners. You want to give them the details, and you want to think about your songwriting as communicating. Just like communicating with your friends, if you don't tell the right details, it's not going to make sense, and they're going to be asking questions when they're done. So now we've started to get some material for our first verse. Okay, so this is cool. So we have the start of some material for our first verse in our song. So sundial. We've got our external lines, we've got our internal lines. So now let's start taking some of these, and like I said, we need to have sort of a mix. A mix of the external and internal. So where my mind is going now is, how do we sort of wrap up what this first verse is about and the idea of the sundial, right? So we talked about our song being, the sundial is a way to measure things, to see what's going on, sort of tell what time it is. I think the last line of my chorus, or not chorus, but verse, is going to be this one. If he texts me back, we may be on to something. So I'm going to put this down here as my last line. So the next piece is I'm going to look at the external, and I'm gonna actually look at some of these other internals. So I'm going to say can't tell what they are thinking, but I'm going to change that. So I'm going to say, whoops. I'm going to say can't tell what he is thinking. If he texts me back, we may be onto something. So next part is the external piece. So how do we set up what's been going on? So I think the first line is we've been going on dates. And I don't know why I copied it when I'm just going to type it, but here we are. We've been going. But that doesn't sound interesting to me. So I'm going to wait on that. So I'm going to start out with night out at the theater. We got ice cream and walked along the river. River and theater, rhyme. Street performers busking in the moonlight. And now I'm kind of thinking like, so we did theater, river, moonlight, and then another rhyme with the ite. So I'm thinking, looking at what I have there, I like the word FaceTime. So night out at the theater, we got ice cream and walked along the river. Street performers busking in the moonlight. We had been only chatting and using FaceTime. Night out at the theater, we got ice cream and walked along the river. Street performers busking in the moonlight. We had only been chatting and using FaceTime. That doesn't sound right to me. There's probably another line, but I'm going to leave that there as a dummy. Maybe it's something about having a good time. Movies, kiss, moonlight. Oh, we had a kiss at the end of the night. So now I have sort of a base of verse 1, right? So this seems kind of like a list right now. So one of the ways that to kind of get past that is to start adding other words. We had a night. We had a night out at the theater. Afterwards, we got maybe let's say we caught a movie at the theater. After that, we got ice cream and walked along the river. There were street performers busking in the moonlight. We had a kiss at the end of the night. Now, I can't tell what he's thinking. If he texts me back, we may be onto something. So it's theater, river, moonlight, night, thinking something. So it's couplets. So I think we have a verse. Um, we may be onto something. But now I want to tie this into like the chorus or the refrain. So maybe where my head is going is maybe this is a verse refrain song. Maybe it's the verse, hook, title line, verse, hook, title line, and maybe bridge, and then another verse, or maybe it's just 3 verses and refrains. But let's see where this is going. So we caught a movie at the theater after we got ice cream and walked along the river. There were street performers busking in the moonlight. We had a kiss at the end of the night. Now I can't tell what he's thinking. If he texts me back, we may be onto something. Um, that would shine some light. I will use that as my sundial. So now we have verse 1. And is this the final? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on sort of how the next verses sort of start stacking up. So as we said, the next step would be verse 2 is really about a troubled relationship. Maybe it's, I used, and maybe sometimes you don't want to take it too far. So sometimes we're spreading too much time across the song. So like in my head originally I was thinking like maybe it's like before you meet, they're together, but then there's trouble, and then it's like things are going well. So maybe we don't move it that far. Maybe the trouble is actually in the current state of they're not texting back, or like something feels off, you know? So so now so thinking of this, so the next step then will be to like really start thinking about what we say in this verse. So that would shine some light. I will use that as my sundial. Long spans of hearing nothing. Just wanting to see that message pop up is the tough thing. After you have a couple of dates and things look promising, is it really so hard to reach out and just say something? You seem to be hiding in a shadow, or he seems to be hiding in a shadow. So it's 1, 2, 3. Okay. He seems to be hiding in a shadow. I don't know why it is so hard, though. just give me some light. I will use my sundial. Some of this point of view, tense, all of that stuff is a little bit probably not correct yet. But what we're really getting is a first draft that we can start to develop. So the thing about songwriting and rewriting is you don't want to necessarily invite your critic in too soon. You want to get a draft, or you want to get the enough there to where you can come back and more objectively, sometimes that's hard, but more objectively see what needs to be adjusted and what doesn't. So we've got a couple of verses now. So let's read through this. So we caught a movie at the theater. After that, we got ice cream and walked along the river. There were street performers busking in the moonlight, and we had a kiss at the end of the night. Now I can't tell what he's thinking. If he texts me back, we may be onto something. That would shine some light. I will use that as my sundial. Long spans of hearing nothing. Just wanting to see that message pop up is the tough thing. After you have a couple dates and things look promising, is it really hard to reach out and just say something? He seems to be hiding in a shadow. I don't know why it's so hard, though. Just give me some light so I can use my sundial. And here I feel like there's a bridge. And it would be like sundial, sundial. Tell me what time it is. Sundial. Whoops, not Sindial. That might be a new song. Sundial. Sundial. Tell me what time it is. I don't know about that, but that's going to be some kind of a bridge or kind of a sing-songy thing. So now verse 3, we said it was everything works out and like the relationship has maybe developed. So what does this sound like? So this would be a similar structure. So he texted me back and I am thrilled. All of those nights wasting time worrying and being a buzzkill, they didn't help me very much at all. My life was on pause until I got his call. It seems silly now that we are getting closer. Older, bolder. I'm going to add something up. Tell me what time it is, and am I wasting that time? Sundial, sundial. Am I wasting my time? And then maybe this as well. He texted me back and I'm thrilled. All of those nights wasting time worrying and being a buzzkill, they didn't help me very much at all. My life was on pause until I got that call. Got his call. That's his is fine. It seems silly now that we're getting closer. My anxiety and thinking of like, what do people do when they're waiting for someone? My anxiety and or my anxiety in waiting just might be over. We got some more lights. And I used my sundial. So that's one way to do it. One of the things that I think could make these verses quite a bit stronger is not to do as much telling and to do some more showing. So what do I mean by that? So just like we did this object writing for our first verse, we could do that for each verse and really focus on what that verse is about. So I think the idea of like person hiding in the shadows could give us some great imagery. I also think, you know, write about what someone is doing while they're hearing like nothing from someone. I think we've all been in that situation where we're checking our phone, we're, you know, pacing, we're not eating right, we're, you know, all of these things. Those could be more imagery based things that could give us something more meaty in this. And this is a really hard thing to fit some of that in these, but that's just the way that you kind of start to develop that. I don't know if I like the bridge, the verse 3, you know, things getting better, you know, we could do some more writing about that. But I think for a really a rough draft for a song called Sundial, I think this shows the idea of how you sort of start to develop a topic. So we'll explore some more ideas on how and why it is so important to use imagery in your writing and how that can be your secret weapon in writing really great original songs. So the other part of this that we didn't really pay close attention to is how do the rhythms of these lines match up and how would they fit correctly within a melody? We could probably talk for a long time about how to do that. But what I wanted to give you right now is the sense of how do you develop an idea and how do you make it sort of walk through stages, right? So let's read through Sundial again and see if this gives you enough of an interest in each box to really sort of tell the story. So, Sundial. We caught a movie at the theater. After that, we got ice cream and walked along the river. There were street performers busking in the moonlight, and we had a kiss at the end of the night. Now, I can't tell what he's thinking. If he texts me back, we may be onto something. That would shine some light, and I will use that as my sundial. Long spans of hearing nothing now, or nothing. Just wanting to see the message pop up is the tough thing. After you have a couple dates and things look promising, it's really hard to reach, or is it really so hard to reach out and just say something? He seems to be hiding in a shadow. I don't know why it's so hard though. Just give me some light so I can use my sundial. Sundial, sundial, tell me what time it is, and am I wasting my time? I need a sundial, sundial. Give me some light so I can see if I am wasting my time. Well, he texted back, and I'm thrilled. All of those nights wasting time worrying and being a buzzkill, they didn't help me very much at all. My life was on pause until I got his call. It seems silly now that we're getting closer. My anxiety and waiting, it might just be over. We got some more light, and I used that as my sundial. And then you may repeat this part again. It feels like that could be kind of a refrainy type of a bridge or like a B section that you could do. Is this song necessarily the best thing ever? Debatable. Probably not. But this is a song that I had no idea what I was going to write about. And now I have a first draft of a lyric from really starting with the word ants and doing, object writing. So let's explore more about imagery and how to use it and why it's so important.